Hello VoXEL fans! Today we're going to take a closer look at animation loops in VoxEdit and how to precisely control rotations for consistent and smooth spinning. This episode is sponsored by the Sandbox Creator Fund, which has hired dozens of artists to create assets for the launch of the Sandbox game and marketplace later this year. Applications are still open if you'd like to join and be part of a real game development team. Visit sandbox.game to learn more, or see the links in the description. If you watched my previous video on creating animations in VoxEdit, you'll remember that I talked about acceleration types between keyframes. If you didn't watch it, you should check that out first so this video makes sense. It's linked up here if you want to watch. In that video, we explored the differences between instant, linear, quadratic, and cubic acceleration. I made a mistake by not checking the measurements in linear motion before defining it in the video. Linear is supposed to be evenly measured steps between each keyframe, which quad and cubic speed up and slow down between keys. However, linear does not currently work like this in VoxEdit. There is a slight ease in and ease out when using linear that isn't supposed to be there. I've reached out to the developers to check if it's a glitch or if this is the intended behavior, and I'll make an update video if it gets fixed, because this will dramatically change the lesson I'm trying to teach. Here's an example of the difference between what linear is supposed to look like on top and how linear actually plays below. You can see the top one keeps the same pace, while the bottom one appears to lag behind, then speed up to catch in the middle, then slow down again to stop at the end. The difference on the timeline is that I only used 2 keyframes for the bottom one with linear acceleration, while the top one has a key every other frame to keep the same pace. So why can we use a key every other frame instead of on one every frame? Well, you could use one every frame, but it wouldn't really change anything. Remember how the linear example caught up in the middle? Because linear uses an ease in and ease out method, even though it isn't supposed to, the middle frame will be in the correct position. So we don't have to waste time setting every single frame. We can set every other frame to be a key with linear acceleration between, and the middle frame will be transformed to the correct position. Now you might be wondering why this is so frustrating. That block moving in a line looked okay for both examples. This really creates a problem when you're trying to make spinning objects like wheels or propellers. I had a whole lesson planned on how to make perfect loops based on other software I've used, but no matter what I did, the animation looked jumpy. The problem ended up being the acceleration, making the frames in between the keys too fast, so anything spinning looked lopsided. So the solution is to take 360 degrees, then divide it by the number of frames in your animation, and the result is how much you need the rotation to adjust for each frame. Because we're skipping every other frame, we can multiply this by 2. Let's try it out by going to the template folder on VoxEdit's home screen and opening the helicopter file. If I simply make 2 keyframes, this is what the spinning looks like. It feels like it has a heavy weight on one side, so let's not do that. Select the rotor top node and set the playhead to frame 2. Then change the Y rotation to 30 degrees. In order to spin an object all the way around in 1 second, or 24 frames, we need to turn 30 degrees every keyframe. So we'll continue going through every other frame, adding 30 degrees, with the keyframes being made automatically as we type in the Y rotation and hit enter. When we play it back, it looks a lot smoother, but something is still wrong. When the animation goes back to 0, it looks like it pauses for a frame, and technically, it does. Frame 0 and frame 24 are the same value because 360 degrees and 0 degrees are the same. If we look at the Y value on frame 24, we can see that it automatically became 0 even though I typed in 360. So what's the fix? Well, there's 2 solutions. 1, I could shorten the animation by 1 frame and set the last frame to 345 degrees. Playing the animation, this looks perfect. But what if we absolutely need this animation to be 1 second long? Well, unfortunately for now, we have to redo the math. We have to add 1 extra frame to our divisor, so 25 instead of 24. That makes our rotation 14.4 degrees per frame, or 28.8 per key every other frame. just a little bit less than the 30 we had before. Redoing all the addition for these frames, we can see that the last frame comes to 345.6 degrees. If we add the 14.4 difference between each frame, that brings us right back to 360 or 0. Yeah, we did it! Unfortunately, there's a problem with this solution, and it's trying to do any other sort of motion to this object with all these keyframes. If we wanted to move this another way, we'd have to do the math for all the steps between on any other sort of motion, because in VoxEdit right now, one keyframe applies to all transformations. In other timeline editors like the one Blender has, each value for X, Y, and Z gets its own timeline, so setting the keyframe for one doesn't lock in all the others. For now, the best solution is to do your other motions first, then do the rotation frames. Or, a more flexible solution is to create an additional node between the rotating object and its parent. This way you can more easily control the other animations from this middle node, while the child node does its twirling, as children tend to do. Hopefully the programmers for VoxEdit will address this issue soon, so making simple rotations won't be such a hassle. The program is still in alpha, so there are plenty of changes and corrections to be made. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to like this video if it helped you. To get notified when there are more videos with the lessons and reviews on VoxEl software, subscribe and hit the bell.